And I put the prefix on there so in larger projects it gets really hard to sort of keep your scripts in line, and it sorts them alphabetically. So at least now all of the object based scripts will be in an object zone. I may do one later called like logic. No, do not attach to main script scene. Okay, because I'm going to put this on a building, right? Okay, mono develop open. Okay, so this is what my dumpster baby main script looks like once it's generated. It's all C#. See, there's a relay, blah blah blah. That's all generated by that stuff. Let's see if I can find. Force them out right. This is where all the force stuff happens. Anyway, you can dig through this generated code at some point. Possible infill loop detected, and try and debug your C# if you want. But it's good to know that all of those simple boxes turn into a C# script that you can get into. I've never done it yet, but I know that I can, which is part of the reason why I use uScript, because I can get into doing that. So let's get this building block back out here. We're going to add a component. Not scripts. Let's go back one. uScript. Graphs. Object building. Okay. Now let's go back to... Oh, sorry. Let's apply that. Turn that back off. So now we have an empty graph that does nothing attached to our buildings. So let's make it do something. In the scene, one thing to keep in mind, we have a trigger building death. Okay, now let's do this. Let's have the, let's go here. What we're gonna do is create a shape. There we go. We'll call this a trigger. So to building, delete it itself. All right, does that make sense? All right, so we've got our trigger. We have no, not mail. We have our script ready to go, and basically we're going to do this action animation, not animation, sorry, physics. Sorry, that's not what I want. I want an event. Physics event. No, trigger event. Okay. On trigger enter, right? Let's look at the instance of what this is. Instance, the game object instance associated with this node. Okay, it's basically it's when myself enters a trigger, right? Check, add condition, comparison between. Actually, let's do this. Triggered by. There's an output. We're going to do a variable game object, right? What did we get triggered by? On trigger enter, actions, game object. Sorry, actually we're not going to do that yet. Condition, comparison between, compare game objects, right? This one comes into A. This one goes into here. When the trigger is entered, if the game object is, come back here, trigger building death. this game object, then perform this action. Okay, so when the owner of this script runs into a game object, what is it? Is it this trigger? Yes. Then if it's the same, right, I'll show you the output here. If it's the same, then action, game object. No, sorry, a little hasty. Add action, game object, destroy, right? It's the same. Destroy, self. Okay, file, save. Now, not too shabby. We should be getting close. Right, okay. It's very strange to watch myself on a 15-second delay. Anyway, here we go. Destroy self. Now, let's see what happens. Uh-oh. SpaghettiOs. Let's look at this clone. Aha. Lesson. Let's go look at the trigger. It is a trigger, however, it needs a physics collider. Triggers are part of the physics system, so it doesn't need a rigid body, but it does need a box collider, and this building block actually will need a box collider. So there's nothing to collide with, it won't collide, right? So let's add a box collider to this. Let's just call this, it's not necessary that this one's a trigger. Yeah, we'll call it a trigger, because I may use it for other things as a trigger. But you know, I'm not actually doing any physics with it because we didn't add a rigid body. Okay, let's do this. Let's see if that works now. Nope. I think one of these needs to have a rigid body, which is probably this one. You know what? Let's double check here. I am going to do open reference for box collider. Right? Because I sometimes forget this. Pull this off. Close this window. So sometimes I need to go back and check. Okay, oh, right, ignored by the physics engine. For the physics tool, center, equal space, collider in XYZ direction. Where is this thing? Is my trigger, is it not going through my trigger? Let's check that. Make it big enough. Let's make it a little bit wider. And in fact, I'm going to go back and switch my logic. It's a little reversed. The trigger is here, instance, game object. So it's basically every time this trigger is hit, then now this owner object of this script will destroy itself. Let's see here. Let's save that again. I always mess this up on triggers. I get it right once and then sort of I fuck it up because I tend to not know how to do things without just pure physics on it. Always remember, just put a rigid body on everything, make it happen. So let's see here. We don't need a rigid body. We should be able to get these things to delete themselves. Let's look at this again. So let's debug this for ourselves. Go back to our script. Add action, editor only. Let's kick out a log. Right? We need to ensure that let's kick out this game object. Let's see. Let's run this so that we understand what's getting. Hold on, let me. Something smells like it's burning. I think it's a candle. Yeah, I think you're right, Josh. I think one of them needs a rigid body to collide with the trigger. But let's play this and go through this one at a time, because we'll verify and confirm it as far as... yeah, okay, so we basically got no collision, right? It did not collide, which means that you're right. This block needs to have a rigid body. I always forget that. And it's misleading because it says the trigger says that it's not a part of the physics system. But let's add a rigid body to this. We're going to ignore gravity, right? Mass of 1 is fine. Angular drag, don't care about any of that stuff. It is kinematic. I am pushing it around the world on our own. I am essentially just putting a rigid body on this thing because of I'm going to freeze the Y position because I don't want it to. Actually, this is not even important because it's kinematic. Discrete is fine. And then you're right, Josh. 1 does need 1. Let's see here. So we added a rigid body. Let's see if that works. So we have 2 checks here. 1 is super visual. It should delete itself. All right, did it? It did not. Console. Did not get that collision. Let's save this again. Let's go back to here. Double check this. Enter. Let's check our death trigger. Is trigger material none. That should be fine. All right. We got nothing on the console, so we got no collision. Oh, ha! You know why? Because I didn't apply this to the prefab. The prefab that was spawning didn't have a rigid body on it yet, right? Let's do this again because it happened and we weren't watching. Well, now we have a problem with we spawned something. Hold on a second. Sorry, getting coffee. And I had a second cup yet. Okay, so now I spawned buildings that now have a rigid body on them. Main piece, but what's happening is they're not showing up. I have a feeling that I have some physics issues going on here. Let's go look, because now it says it exists in the world, right? But there's nothing there. Where the fuck are my buildings? That's all I'm saying. Where's the green one? Okay, he's out here. So let's talk through that. Is kinematic